maybe this is difficult for people to understand because that's how politicians think. I think that part of the problem with our politics right now is that it's become too much about the politicians. You're asking me who's going to run in 24? The people of Georgia get to decide who's going to be their senator in 3 days, Monday, and I hope they'll show up.
Senator was right about that. Monday, early voting begins in the Georgia Senate race that could decide control of the U.S. Senate. Now, if you're just tuning in now, look, Herschel Walker set very low expectations for himself. He had not debated yet. There are going to be people who were pleasantly surprised. Certainly, you hear people on the right side of the aisle and the Republican establishment are coming out strong saying that Walker was great. How does that resonate with the voters remains to be seen. But we have our special coverage for you that we're going to look at this in a lot of different ways. We got a group of people who are actual voters who are giving you their deeper take on it. Leland Vittert is down at the scene of the debate in Savannah and is a key member of Team Warnock with him, the mayor of Savannah. Leland, to you.
Mayor Van Johnson here, the mayor of Savannah. Appreciate you being with us. Obviously, we had Mr. Walker on for a little while and offered equal time to your side of the table. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
I'll start with the exact same question I started with Herschel Walker. What is the one moment of the debate tonight that you hope that undecided voters in Georgia remember?
I think the most important part is where we were talking about specifics. You know, it's one thing to talk about very lofty goals about what you would do, but when you talk about things that have actually been done, I think that's what voters in Georgia were waiting for, an opportunity. We've heard a bunch of commercials.
Is it about what's been done by Raphael Warnock and by Democrats in Washington, or
Absolutely.
is this by what's the specifics that Herschel Walker talked about?
I think it's specifics by what Senator Warnock has done. He has a record now. And so he's been in an election every year for the last 3 years, very short time through some of the most challenging times that our country's ever known. And yet you've seen his influence already in the national dialogue, also in legislation that helps people here in my city.
Fair enough. We want to point out to our viewers at home that the mayor is actually also on Facebook. Is this Facebook Live?
Yes, Facebook
so
Live.
Every Friday night since the pandemic started, the mayor has gone on Facebook Live, and he said he'd be happy to do an interview with us, but we could not interrupt that. So
154 weeks.
154
Absolutely.
weeks, and his viewers are all along with us for the ride.
That's right.
We appreciate
Thank
that. Turn on News Nation. You can watch the interview.
That's right.
This came up, and I think it's interesting. As you watch the debate, Raphael Warnock wanted to frame this in many ways as a referendum on Herschel Walker,
sure.
right? And his fitness for office.
Sure.
Herschel Walker wants to frame this as a referendum on Biden.
Right.
Is that fair?
I think, you know, it's politics. I mean, obviously, you are trying to frame your issue where it is. Again, I think that Senator Warnock has a record. And so here you heard about specifics of a record. You know, the fact that Senator Warnock voted 96% with President Biden.
How is President Biden's record and Senator Warnock's record not the same thing?
I don't know. Well, I don't think it's 96% of the time. So obviously, it's not 100% of the time. So I mean, we've seen opportunities, particularly when looked at base closures here in Savannah. Certainly with insulin, where Senator Warnock pushed back on the president. I mean, I think that, obviously you're in the same party, you have the same ideological goals, but the reality is even sometimes people with the same ideology sometimes disagree.
Sure.
And so I think I've been proud that the senator has pushed back, even on the president of the United States, to say we can do more, we can do better. More importantly, also the bipartisan work with the infrastructure bill, with the Inflation Reduction Act. You've shown opportunities where people can work together, and he's shown the opportunity to do that.
There were 2 points tonight where Senator Warnock really didn't answer specific questions. One on the issue of abortion in particular. Is that a problem for undecided voters in that Herschel Walker seems very comfortable, agree or disagree with him, laying out very clear lines?
I think he was very clear in his answer for abortion. He said very clearly
Okay.
that he felt like that we should not, the government should not have a role in the personal health decisions of women. I think you can't get any clearer than that. Obviously,
no, that's a good point.
Yeah, Mr. Walker, was very clear in his. I think people have to decide. I mean, I think that becomes a philosophical argument. Should the government be involved in the healthcare decisions of women? And should men make those decisions?
What do you make of how low Mr. Walker set the bar for himself? He set the expectations very, very, very
he did,
low.
and he didn't disappoint. I mean, he played down to those expectations.
So you don't think he had a good night? In fairness,
I mean, I think he did the best he could. I mean, you heard the same things over and over again about the 96%. Okay, fine, 96%. You heard about the issues of religion. Obviously, sometimes I think they got a little personal.
Yeah,
but I mean, it is what it is. I think finally Georgians, and in my case Savannahans, had a chance to hear at least a little more extensively from both candidates, as opposed to the ads that have just been dominating our TV station. We want our TVs back.
Well, you may not get them for at least another month if there's a runoff.
Right. Well, I don't think. Hopefully, we won't have to go there.
All right, that would be 50% of the vote here. Because
That's right.
Much like what you had in 2020, when you have a runoff if nobody gets to 50%. Mayor, we appreciate the time. Appreciate you letting us crash the Facebook Live event. Nice to see you all. And Chris, we will send it back to you once again with the caveat that the magical communications devices that we use are not working. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Savannah wins.
I like that.
Well, I
We're
heard
going
the
to
mayor.
enjoy Savannah, Chris.
That's
Have a great night.
And Leland, I'm starting to take it personally that maybe you just don't want to talk to me. No, the interviews have been great, and I appreciate it. Leland will laugh later when they tell him what I said. All right, let's go back to the viewing party. Because, again, it really is the best present sense impression, better than any polls or numbers. I'm sure you're seeing our brothers and sisters in the media putting out instant react polls. And look, at the end of the day, it's about depth of feeling, not breadth of feeling, okay? There aren't a lot of undecideds in a race like this, even if somebody says they're undecided. And voting starts on Monday, and it's going to be about which side is more enthusiastic, and a big part of that is going to be based off what they saw and heard tonight. Okay, Olivia, who's next up? Who do we have? Ricky.
Yes, I would want to speak more on, I like what Herschel Walker said about the mental health issues. That's an issue that has not been addressed. It doesn't get addressed enough, especially among veterans that suffer that. So you need someone to advocate to get this out more, that there is help, and the help is available.
Yes. Now, Ricky, I think it's a great point. We ignore it to our own detriment. There's so many people who don't want to talk about it and don't want to get help because of shame and stigma. And it was good that Herschel Walker said, yes, I had a problem. Let me ask you something, though. Even the way the question was asked to him, it was asked as if it is a negative. He had to say, I've stopped treatment. I don't need it anymore. I'm fine now. And even the question to him was, do you think people will think you can lead given what they know about your health? They wouldn't say that if he had diabetes. They wouldn't say that if he had leukemia. They wouldn't say that even if he had cancer. Even John Fetterman in Pennsylvania is getting plenty of people defending him after a stroke. Do you think that mental health deserves more respect, that you don't have to explain away that you're okay now, or that it doesn't mean that you're not crazy and that you can lead? Do we have to do better?
Well, I thought he answered the question pretty good. I don't think he shied away from it. He's been very transparent about it. Maybe he has been cured. Maybe he has got enough help, enough mental help to overcome the obstacles that he faced. We don't know that, but I feel confident in what he's doing, and at least he's addressing it and not running away from it.
And just the one last quick thing, Ricky. If you hear that somebody has had a struggle with some type of mental illness, to you, does that mean that they're not qualified to lead? No,
that does not. I mean, we all have issues, but we can still work through those issues. Because you have you're diabetic don't mean you can't go out and run a race.
Same thing.
It
Beautiful.
don't mean you can't. You can't. Don't mean you can't have your ice cream cone every now and then.
I hear you,
saying.
and it's good. It's good that you see him the same way. We got to get more people in society over there on that. Appreciate you. Okay, Jamaica.
Hi, yes. And so I just wanted to speak on that as a suicide attempt survivor. I do agree that mental health does need to come to more of a forefront. And like you said, I would have really appreciated if Herschel Walker would have not tried to shoo away from it like it was still a stigma for him, and instead take that chance and that opportunity to say, hey, yes, I struggle with this, but I'm still a great person. And so I would just like to see more of that come to the forefront, because when you talk about all of the issues that we have as far as abuse related to abortion and inflation, all of these things are intertwined with mental health. I know after my attempt, I lost my job, and so I struggled to get food and to eat, and so I could not imagine that now in an inflation. And then if you're a mom trying to feed your children, like all of these things are intertwined with mental health. And so I would just like to see more of that come to the forefront.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of stigma, though. Let me ask you, Jamaica, did the debate tonight help solidify how you're going to vote?
No, it did not. Like I said, I did not hear from Raphael Warnock at all on mental health. And then as far as Herschel Walker, like I said, I agree with you that he did kind of say that, oh, I don't have that anymore, and try to brush away from the issue like it would affect how people saw him.
Let me do a quick show of hands. Based on what you guys heard tonight, who is changing their vote based on what they heard tonight? Show of hands. No one. Unless you're just messing with me. Based on what you heard tonight, is everybody going to vote? Hands. All right. I don't see everybody's hands, by the way. I hope if you took the time to come to a television viewing party, you're going to vote. All right, I appreciate you all very much. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for the points. Really appreciate it. It matters when it's somebody who's a real stakeholder in the election for the rest of the audience to get a feel for where you're at. God bless and be well. Good luck in the race. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to have more on our debate coverage. What are the main issues, okay, to voters, and how did the answers kind of play to those? We have some cuts from the debate that we'll play and discuss next.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.